Can you see the mountain you stand in, full of horses and chariots of fire? Angelic ministry was one of the most powerful ministries of the New Testament, which made the saints invincible. Angels were not ideologies to them, but real personalities and a usual and expected experience. When Peter knocked at Mary's door after his release from prison, those in the house assumed it must be his angel at the door, not Peter himself. Also, it can be seen that there are no scriptural records to show that Peter expressed any shock or amazement at the appearance of an angel in prison. The angels were authentic beings to them. To have angelic intervention like they did, you must begin operating in the invincible realm. Elisha prayed that the eyes of his servant might be opened, and they were opened. Do the same prayer that you may see the true power of God in your life. Finally, take note that you are born again. It is necessary to remind ourselves that angelic ministrations are saints limited, i.e., restricted only to people who have been saved and sanctified by the blood of the Lamb and have their names written in the book of life. In other words, you have to be born again before you can enjoy the ministry of angels, or get them to work on your behalf or at your request. God said, "I am the Lord, I change not." Hence, what he did in the past, he is still doing in the present. He cannot change. The Bible does not exist merely for information, but for our instruction and for guidelines on what to do or not do in similar situations and circumstances. The things that were written aforetime were written for our learning, so we need to look deep into the Word to locate the master keys and principal ways which the early saints employed for the effective release of their angels. However, before considering what to do, let us first note what not to do. That is, the factors that might obstruct or delay angelic ministrations, even in the lives of the heirs of salvation. The same God that gave us commandments, such as "do not commit adultery," "do not murder," said, "do not worry." When we worry, we are putting God's authority in question, which is a violation of our relationship with Him. Have you ever experienced anything positive as a result of your worrying about something? Worrying only serves to segregate our thoughts and prevents us from accomplishing the goals we set for ourselves. If you are concerned about a situation, the best thing for you to do is to put your trust in the Lord. The origin of the word of our concerns never even come to pass. It's proper to let God know about your concerns, for Jesus said He would provide rest for your soul. The miracles Elisha performed are, for the most part, acts of helpfulness and blessing. Others strongly resemble some of the miracles of Christ. The example of Elisha serves to bring to our attention several significant aspects related to perspective. First, Elisha felt unmoved by the physical realm and its opposition. Second, Elisha showed poise and calmly assured his servant he had nothing to fear. Elisha communicated a vision invisible to others. Lastly, Elisha prayed that his servant would be able to see what he saw. Perspective separates leaders and followers more than any other characteristic. Leaders see before followers do. They see beyond what followers do. And they see bigger than followers do. Elisha's physical army was just as dangerous as the army of spiritual forces that oppose us today. It is easy for us to get the impression that we are outgunned when we focus solely on the vast number of adversaries, rather than taking into account the fact that, just as chariots and horses of fire appeared to the prophet Elisha, there are forces that are willing to fight on our side if we have the faith to ask. Satan desires for us to have a sense of isolation. He intends for us to have the impression that the challenges we face are insurmountable. He wants us to have the impression that we can only rely on the power that we have within ourselves. All these thoughts are deception. In point of fact, the powers of this world are nothing compared to the power that is accessible to us through the Holy Spirit. When we are willing to live our lives in a spirit of faith, we can recognize our enemies for what they are, and, with God on our side, put them to death. Isaiah 41:10, Amplified Bible. Do not fear anything, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. Be assured, I will help you. I will certainly take hold of you with my righteous right hand, a hand of justice, of power, of victory, of salvation. Elisha performs his function here as the man of God, as the prophet of God, in pointing people to the true character of God in every situation. Elisha maintains his composure and self-assurance despite the fact that God's people are being persecuted and that their circumstances are bleak on the surface. This is because he has a vision of faith. Where do I put my faith? Elisha's servant had no faith in anything beyond what he could perceive and comprehend, and as a result, he was immediately disheartened. He understood that they were up against a challenge that was too difficult for man to surmount. He was oblivious to the spiritual battle because he was focused on using his human understanding to find solutions to his human problems. He failed to remember that there was a real God fighting on his side. In what or who do we place our faith? How do we respond when we are confronted by an adversary in the course of our daily activities? Do we act like Elisha, or more like his servant? When we live in this simple faith, all the powers of heaven are on our side.